Welcome to the Tech Mobility Podcast.
I'm Ken Chester. Welcome to the start of our 8th year as we delve into a full docket of topics. 8 years we've been doing this. And for those of you that have been with us from the beginning, thank you. You've seen a lot of evolution and change, and hopefully a level of higher quality and more fulfillment in the topics that we talk about and the research that I continue to do. Because after all, I do this because I want you to be a better informed citizen, be more aware of everything that's happening around you as everybody is throwing all this jargon at you, and try to break it down and explain pieces of it for you to have a greater understanding, and more importantly, that you will gain knowledge in certain aspects that you may not necessarily always see because of the plethora of outlets that everybody gets information: online, offline, radio, social media, a million different places compared to back in the day. But for those of you who have been faithful listeners, I want to thank you, because I do it for you and I couldn't have done it without you. So together, we're going to look forward to 2025 and see what kind of information I can share with you that will help broaden your horizons and increase your education of the tech around you. So let's talk about what's on the docket. First of all, the challenge of making a robot chef, technology to help those with dementia, and repurposing wind turbines into tiny homes. As always, I welcome your comments, ideas, and suggestions. More now than ever, actually. To add your voice to the conversation, call the Tech Mobility Hotline. That number, 872-222-9793. Or you can email the show, talk@techmobility.show. We can also be found across social media, our YouTube channel, and our 2 podcasts, the Tech Mobility Podcast and Tech Mobility Topics. And before I go to the Tech Mobility News Desk, a very special shout out to all our radio partners that have continued to be with us through the ups and downs, the pandemic, all the crazy stuff that's happened in the last 8 years. Thank you, particularly those that started most of the stations that signed with us as foundation members back in 2017 are still with us. And those of you who have joined us since then, thank you for your commitment and dedication and support of our show. It means a lot to me, and I work very hard to make sure that I earn that trust from you and your listeners every single week. This news topic I want to talk about. I have taken a lot of flack from some of you about my robust embrace of EVs. And while I still say you need to drive one to fully appreciate it, but I get it, I understand. These couple of news pieces are for you. I'm going to start with Mazda. Mazda is what you consider a second-tier Japanese manufacturer who's, carved a niche out for building vehicles that were fun to drive and enjoyable. Their old slogan, Zoom Zoom, still resonates with a lot of people. And it says it all in those 2 words, that if you drive a Mazda, you're going to enjoy the drive. You're going to find roads to drive. Here's why I bring Mazda up. This is from Automotive News earlier, just literally a couple of days ago. Mazda poised for record U.S. sales powered mostly by gasoline engines. Mazda was a little late to the party, but they've done the pivot. They did the pivot and started building crossover SUVs that are amazing. And I can tell you, I've driven pretty much everything Mazda makes for sale in the United States. My personal favorite actually is the CV50. It is the equivalent of a comfortable pack mule. It does everything. It's small enough to get anywhere. It will tow 3,500 pounds, and it is rock solid on and off road. I had a chance to premiere that vehicle off-road in the California desert almost 2 years ago. And that's the one they actually build in the United States with Toyota. And it's an amazing vehicle. Since then, Mazda's brought out the CX-90, which was amazing. And then the CX-70, which I just did a review on a few weeks back, which is basically the two-row version of the CX-90. All that space. I said it then, I'm going to say it now. That's going to end up being limo service. It's comfortable enough, it's roomy enough, and any fleet operator that doesn't buy a fleet of them and turn them into private cars is missing a golden opportunity because they do everything so well. Let me read a little bit from the article. Mazda Motor Corp is wrapping up a banner year in an overall sluggish auto market, and its U.S. sales chief expects that momentum to extend into 2025, even without a fully electric vehicle in its lineup. That sentence is for some of you, and y'all know who you are. Buoyed by demand for its gas-powered crossovers, the Japanese company is on track to deliver more than 420,000 vehicles in the United States in 2024, a 16% rise. Let's put that in perspective. The Ford Motor Company sells double that in F-Series pickups. I just want that to settle. In 2025, Mazda aims to sell 450,000 vehicles. The 2024 record of 420,000 beat a record. The last time Mazda sold that many vehicles in the United States of America, are you ready for this? Was almost 40 years ago, 1986, when they were selling mainly cars and one really cool little compact pickup. Now they're doing it with SUVs. And fun fact, Mazda is one of the few auto manufacturers that still build a car. They still build the Mazda 3. You don't hear much about it anymore, but they still build it, and they still sell it. Right now, their number one vehicle, ironically, is one of the oldest ones in the lineup, and it's the CX-5 compact crossover, the one built in Japan. The second one is the one made in Mexico, which is the CX-30. And then third place, my personal favorite, the CX-50, which is built in Alabama. They went like gangbusters, though, when the CX-90 came out. We reviewed it in California. Mazda couldn't keep up with the demand for that vehicle. It had really cool things. Like, for example, you could set the Mazda CX-90. You could get in it. It takes a picture of your face, and based on that, you can do some 200 different settings within the car, and then you'll never have to press a memory button again. The vehicle will adjust everything based on recognizing you. I thought it was the coolest thing. A little disconcerting at first, but when you think about it, if you are a vehicle family where multiple drivers, I think it is horrifically convenient that based on your face, you don't have to remember, because there's nothing worse than, Dad, can I borrow the car? And all the settings are off. The radio settings are off. The seat settings are off. They don't put nothing back. And you go half crazy. Imagine a vehicle where when you get in it, it recognizes you and sets everything back without you having to set anything because you did it just once. That's the CX-90. Mazda's just selling the heck out of them. And really, I think that the vehicle, the sleeper in the Mazda lineup right now, is probably the CX-70, because it's a combination of a lot of room you don't expect in a vehicle that size. It's extremely comfortable, and it does a lot of things well. I bring up Mazda, case number one of an automaker making money without electric vehicles. And I'm doing that because there's some folks out there that are just convinced that I can't see both sides of the coin. Well, hey, there it is. So there. Now, you ready for this? For those of y'all that are into horsepower and said, no electric, never, ever, ever. You guys are the people Dodge is aiming at. They are rushing their gasoline version Charger to production that should show up pretty close to the electric version. That's going to be a twin turbo 6-cylinder. It's not going to be the big old V8, but the thing's still going to make 550 horsepower out of a 3-liter twin turbo 6-cylinder. And because the public said we want it, Dodge is rushing to build it. So there are people, and the market is responding to, vehicles that are still internal combustion. They're not quite dead yet. So we'll see if the numbers back up the demand when the gasoline charger comes out sometime late this year. Would you eat a meal prepared by a robot chef? That question is more relevant than you think. You are listening to the Tech Mobility Show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
Social media is the main place to be these days, and we are no exception. I'm Ken Chester, the Tech Mobility Show. If you enjoy my program, then you will also enjoy my weekly Facebook videos. From my latest vehicle reviews to timely commentary of a variety of mobility and technology-related topics, these short features are designed to inform and delight you. Be sure to watch, like, and follow us on Facebook. You can find us by typing the Tech Mobility Show in the search bar. Be sure to subscribe to our Facebook page. Social media is the place to be these days, and we're no exception. I'm Ken Chester of the Tech Mobility Show. If you enjoy my program, then you will also enjoy my weekly Instagram videos. From the latest vehicle reviews to timely commentary on a variety of mobility and technology-related topics, these short features are designed to inform and delight you. Be sure to watch, like, and follow us on Instagram. You can find us by typing the Tech Mobility Show in the search bar. For those of you that listen to podcasts, we have just the one for you. Hi, I'm Ken Chester. Tech Mobility Topics is a podcast where I upload topic-specific videos each week. Shorter than the full show, these bite-sized programs are just the thing, particularly if you're interested in a particular topic covered on the weekly radio show. From Apple Podcasts to iHeartRadio and many podcast platforms in between, we got you covered. Just enter Tech Mobility Topics in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts.
The safety and traction of Quattro all-wheel drive. Child seat safety locks. No charge scheduled maintenance. Only one German luxury car offers all this, all at a price that's thousands less than you'd expect. The new Audi A6. Because somebody has to pave the way.
The Audi A6 is mid-size compared to the A8, which was larger, and the A4, which was smaller. That vehicle, the one that was in a commercial, that was for a 1995 Audi A6. That A6 in 1995 would still have cost you $31,900, which is quite a bit of money, 30 years ago. Having driven a variety of Audi A6s over the years, it's a pretty remarkable vehicle. But may I add, $31,900. That's a lot of money to spend for a sedan. But also notice, by the mid-1990s, Audi was touting actual safety features because throughout the 90s, safety was selling. And the automakers were going what I would consider the first generation of safety equipment. That would be analog brakes and airbags and things like that. Very early stuff. We were still a little bit of ways from traction control, stability control, and all the other advanced driver protection systems that we have now that are standard in a lot of new cars. Didn't exist back then. We're just getting into it. It's interesting to note how primitive it looked compared to a vehicle half that price today and how much safety equipment it has standard. Steve Ells, the founder of Chipotle back in the 1990s, is hard at work on his next act, and that is developing a platform of the future for the restaurant industry. While many in the restaurant space are experimenting with automation, they're finding out that human labor is hard to replace. So here's the question. Will he succeed? This is Topic A. let me start with the issue, because really, it boils down to money, as it always does. A move towards automation in restaurants could save the quick service industry, otherwise known as the fast food industry, as much as $12 billion a year. I want that to settle. Now, let me give you some context. The Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics puts the median wage for food service workers across the country at $14.29 an hour in 2023. So it's not that much. So you got to be talking about millions of people at that low wage. Why do they want to do it? Because in a lot of restaurants, labor is upwards of a fourth to a third of their overall cost. It's a big chunk. Labor is a big chunk. And what restaurants in particular have learned, and a lot of diners have learned this too, it's hard to get wait staff. It's hard to get kitchen staff. Orders not coming out right because of overworked, underpaid folks that are trying to make it work. How many times immediately after the pandemic did you see signs in restaurants saying, short staff, please be patient. We're trying to do the best we can. That hasn't really resolved as people have taken a really hard look at quality of life. And if it's one thing of many that the pandemic has brought out, is people have really rethought work, what they're willing to do for work, and what they're willing to commit to work. So a lot of companies on the low end are finding it harder and harder to find the kind of people they need to run their businesses. Hence, Steve Ells and his food chain company, Kernel, and that's Kernel like kernel of corn, Kernel, will play a leading role. This one example, and this is a New York Times piece. On a warm day in October, they're just giving you a little backdrop. He nibbled on a chicken salad sandwich that had been partially prepared by a robot that looked as if it might have relatives welding cars at Toyota. The machine was quickly swiveling, extending its arm to remove chicken thighs and carrots from an oven heated to 515 degrees and deposit them on a steel counter where human employees assembled sandwiches and salads before bagging them for customers, also presumably human. We've reported here about fast food like McDonald's and Taco Bell and Wendy's trying to automate. McDonald's threw in the towel, actually. They tried to automate, didn't work out. They said, we're done. What you have probably noticed if you've walked into a fast food place in recent years is the rise of a kiosk where you, the customer, actually punch in the order, and that is a labor-saving device for the company, reducing the number of cashiers. And of course, AI is rearing its ugly head because they want AI programs for drive-through orders or inventory management to help manage, to get orders right, to get it turned around. Who knew that ordering from drive-through would get so complicated? But it is. We've talked about this before. The chains continue to struggle with labor shortages and soaring costs, as well as orders that come out wrong. So there's a lot of push to try to automate the kitchen. But here's the problem. In the typical kitchen, even in a McDonald's kitchen, it's not a matter of doing the same task over and over and over, but it's multitasking. You might be making one type of food and then going over to make another type of food. And while to the human, it's no big deal, to the computer, it's many steps in order to do that, not to mention a level of temperature control, cleanliness requirements, and just good food practice and good handling practice. And the machine's got to be easy to clean. You got to be able to take that sucker apart and clean it easily and put it back together. So there's a lot going on. Chipotle, for example, their labor costs across their chain could reach $2.7 billion. They've been testing something called Avocado, a machine that can cut, pit, and scoop out an avocado in 26 seconds. Doesn't sound like a big deal, does it? But if you've got a person doing that, now they could be doing something else. White Castle, regardless how you feel about White Castle, but White Castle has installed a system called Flippy to make fries and other items in 18 locations in the United States. Here's what's going to need to happen for these to work. The auto industry makes it work because the jobs that they do are repetitive. Welding, repetitive. Installing certain trim, repetitive. And the variations they can manage, but it's repetitive. That machine performs the same action, job after job, hour after hour, day after day. It doesn't have to multitask to 15 different things. If you're in a small kitchen, you do. And that is the challenge of developing a robot to be able to do all that. Now, it doesn't mean they're not succeeding. There's one place called Sweet Green, a fast casual salad chain. I never heard of it, but okay. They've got automated salad making systems called the Infinite Kitchen in about a dozen of their 240 restaurants. They'll have that by the end of the year. So there are companies that are making it work, companies that are taking a look at it, and oh yeah, the cost per kitchen, upwards of $550,000 each, which means if you're an independent, you ain't got that kind of money, and you're looking at a chain to dig into that kind of money and make money. Sweet Green says they are making money and that the percentage of their automated source is actually better. Imagine. A police department in the United Kingdom has developed a Bluetooth locating device as part of their dementia safeguarding scheme. This is the Tech Mobility Show. Do you listen to podcasts? Seems that most people do. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. If you've missed any of our weekly episodes on the radio, our podcast is a great way to listen. You can find the Tech Mobility Podcast just about anywhere you can enjoy podcasts. Be sure to follow us. From Apple Podcasts to iHeartRadio and many platforms in between, we are there. Just enter the Tech Mobility Podcast in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts. Social media. It's the place to be, and we're no exception. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Several times a week, I post to TikTok several of the topics that I cover on my weekly radio show. It's another way to keep up on mobility, technology, news, and information. I've built quite a library of short videos for your viewing pleasure, so be sure to watch, like, and subscribe. That's the Tech Mobility Show on TikTok. Check it out. The Avon and Somerset Police Department in the United Kingdom has recently announced the launch of Bluetooth locating devices as part of their award-winning dementia safeguarding scheme. And when I tell you this is very personal to me, I'm going to explain it in a minute, but it very much is. This is topic B. Let me start again with context. According to the National Institutes of Health in the United States, 1 in 7 Americans aged 71 and older has some type of dementia. I'm going to explain what dementia is, but I'm going to start by telling you that there are 167 different types of dementia, of which Alzheimer's is one of them. Dementia is an overall term for a particular group of symptoms. The characteristic symptoms of dementia are difficulties with memory, language, problem solving, and other thinking skills that affect a person's ability to perform everyday activities. Changes to the brain cause dementia, and many different brain changes can lead to dementia. And I won't get into all the technical stuff. It is personal for me because my mom had one of those types. It's called Lewy body dementia. And if you've ever had a parent or a loved one that was diagnosed with Alzheimer's or one of the types of dementia, then to see them basically leave you while still physically capable is probably one of the cruelest things you've ever seen. Now, the reason why I wanted to share this with you, and I'm going to come back to a piece of it in a minute. Their scheme, their whole thing is they've got little tiles, and these tiles actually say on them that the person with dementia would have the tile on them. And it says, I have dementia. For help, scan the QR code in the back. And what this does is it allows a family member to be notified if for some reason the person wanders off. And the reason why I bring that up is, again, going back to the National Institutes of Health, they said individuals living with Alzheimer's dementia may develop changes in mood, personality, or behavior One behavior of special concern is wandering. For the person with dementia, wandering is likely an intentional effort to reach a destination. However, they may not be able to retrace their steps and may become lost. Wandering puts individuals at risk of significant injury and death. And this is why I think it is a really cool idea. The tile trackers enable location by leveraging Life 360's global network of over 76 million smartphones, which are tied to their network, creating a network effect that helps pinpoint the wearer's location in the event they go missing. Most importantly, the tile device location remains private and only visible to authorized families or carers. The tile also incorporates QR code functionality. When the QR code on the back of the device is scanned, it allows the next of kin or carer to be contacted directly via phone or text. Contact details are securely added during the device registration process in the Tile app, enabling fast connection if the wearer requires help. The other beautiful thing about this system is it can also include medical information about the individual, so if something happens to them, and they're not able to articulate what's going on, by scanning this, first responders would know how to treat the individual, while at the same time notifying carers or loved ones of their location. And I can't tell you, I really can't. This happened to my mom and my dad and mom when they were alive. They lived in the country. And one Sunday, my dad went to church like they do, but mom stayed home. And something told dad to come home early. And it's a good thing he did. My mom is all of 4'9". She'd locked herself out of the house and was wandering next to the road. Well, the road where my parents' house was is a fast-moving 2-lane with the speed limit down at the bottom of a hill where they lived about 45 miles an hour. My mom being so short, she could have been clipped. The driver would have never knew he hit her. And she was out there wandering around. This thing is real because there's so many people. And I didn't realize, I'm sure that if you know somebody who's older, you probably know either a friend or a family member or somebody that has a loved one that has one of these forms of dementia. And you cannot do enough for them. If they're a caretaker, it is probably the most draining thing in the world. How my dad was able to sleep with both eyes closed, and they lived in a country where mom could get up and wander around. I don't know how he did it. But the problem is they get agitated sometimes. My mom did. And it took a public scene in order for her to get looked at. And when they analyzed her, she never came home. But she was in a safe place. So when I saw this little tile, I thought, what a wonderful idea. Now, I want to specify and I want to reassure you because I had a doubt. I said, okay, 76 million smartphones, that doesn't sound very safe. But it actually is because it's not just general phones like I thought it was first. These phones are actually part of the Life 60 network. So there's been some scanning, there's been some evaluation. You just don't lock into it. But I cannot tell you. I looked at these numbers from the National Institute of Health, and it was crazy. Here's one thing that blew my mind, though, that I did not know. Again, numbers. The impact of dementia on patients and caregivers is substantial, and the financial burden is also high. The cost of dementia care in 2023 in the United States has been estimated to be $345 billion with a B. It cost, it cost over $300 a day to keep my mom in that ward. It was $110,000 a year. There is no way on the planet that without medical assistance that my dad would be able to pay for mom and have her safe. But because of where they lived and the plan they had, they were able to do that. So while it's a terrible disease, at least my mom was in a safe place. So yeah, I'm a little emotional about this because also the National Health Statistics reports the title, which came out last summer, diagnosed dementia in adults age 65 and older in the United States for the year 2022. Yeah, I turned 65 the following year, so I'm a little concerned. Here's something else. Without extensive clinical testing, it can be difficult to identify the type of dementia the person has. And studies show that many people with dementia have mixed dementias. I just learned that reading this. Previous research using a variety of data sources and methods estimate that overall, 10% of the population 65 and older in the United States has dementia, with a higher prevalence found in residents of nursing homes and residential care communities. Did not know that. And here's something else I didn't know about dementia since we're talking about this. I learned, and they studied it and they proved it, the more education you have, the less likely you are to get it. I also learned that exercise helps as well to reduce the risk of dementia. That people with less education are more susceptible to dementia. My mom never went to college. She graduated high school as far as she went. It was crazy. There's an effort to convert aging wind turbines into gorgeous tiny homes. We are the Tech Mobility Show. To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show. Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
Social media is the place to be these days, and we're no exception. I'm Ken Chester of the Tech Mobility Show. If you enjoy my program, then you will also enjoy my weekly Instagram videos. From the latest vehicle reviews to timely commentary on a variety of mobility and technology-related topics, these short features are designed to inform and delight you. Be sure to watch, like, and follow us on Instagram. You can find us by typing the Tech Mobility Show in the search bar. We have talked about different takes on the tiny home concept over the years, and no doubt, they have long served as a source of creative exploration amongst designers, from ultra-minimal concepts to affordable 3D printed dwellings and even an all-electric battery-powered model. A Dutch prototype is stretching the bounds of an already innovative market by introducing a completely new idea: a tiny home made out of an old wind turbine. This is Topic C. Again, Ken and his conceptual, I want to put things into perspective for you. Because people bring up, hey, I heard about a lot of this negativity about wind turbine blades. Oh my God, all they can do, they can't recycle them, all this stuff. And you're right, and they're working on that. But I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about when you look up at a wind turbine, you see that kind of square part behind the blades? Yeah, I'm talking about that. Context. Let me give you some context. This is according to Boston University's Institute for Global Sustainability. More than 86,000 wind turbines were built in 45 states plus Guam and Puerto Rico from 1981 through early 2024. 86,000. Here's what you probably didn't know. They have a life basically of 20 years. I didn't know that. So what happens after 20 years, and how many have been decommissioned since then? I can tell you, according to this report, that 11,000 of those wind turbines have been decommissioned since 1992. Here's the kicker. The early ones were way smaller compared to the ones they're installing today. Now, decommissioning refers to the removing of a wind energy project, and that is wind turbines and the associated infrastructure, and restoring any land used as part of the project. Okay, having said that, now imagine that you make wind turbines, that you operate wind turbines. You're looking at it and you're saying, what can we do? Well, that big box behind the blades, where the motors are and the brakes are and the generator is, it's called the nacelle or control box. One company decided, hey, we can make that into a tiny home. How big is it, actually? Well, the one that they used as an example is 33 feet long, 13 feet wide, and 10 feet tall, and it comes in at 387 square feet. So basically a little larger than a very small New York City apartment. They could turn it into a tiny home. Get this, though, not just a tiny home, but a luxurious tiny home, to where they're going, and that it meets all the code. Now, obviously, when they decommissioned the turbine, the company that was taking them apart had to first separate it from the rest of the turbine itself and remove everything from the inside, which is the brake and the rotors and the generator, and all that stuff had to come out. Once that's happened, then they got to figure out how to get this shell to a plant where it can be modified. And it took a minute. Now, this happened in the Netherlands, and believe it or not, the Dutch have tiny home design codes, which includes meeting lighting and space benchmarks, incorporating proper installation, and escape routes in the event of an emergency. The design they came up with, the final design, the prototype, met all of those qualifications without sacrificing other essentials. Bear in mind, it's 387 square feet, okay? Inside the home, people will find a fully functioning toilet and shower, kitchen with a sink and stove, a pull-out couch, and an electric heat pump for temperature regulation. Solar panels on the roof provide extra power, and the home comes with a two-way hookup for electric vehicles, meaning that it can either charge the vehicle or use the vehicle's power inside the home. And in a definite European touch, light wood paneling adds an aesthetic touch throughout. A lot of people have wondered, when these turbines get to the end of their life, what are you going to do with them? You're just going to put them in the dump, ain't you? You're just going to scrap them. There's no use for them. Oh, my God, just more pollution. So how can you be so green when you've got to scrap all this mess? Well, this is one idea. Now, the company who authorized the development of the concept is not about to start marketing these. But I think, hey, if you could recycle ocean-going containers in the homes, why not this? Why not use this? And more importantly, why not build a tiny home community near the fields that are being decommissioned or where these are being replaced? You wouldn't have to travel that far. And I think there's a real market for them. We've got a need for housing. Housing is expensive in the United States. We've talked about that in length, and in most cities, you cannot afford to buy a home. It's just outright ridiculous. And with the pandemic, a lot of people, as they've moved out from city centers, have created demand in even some of the smaller towns because quality of living is a big thing. And as I've asked down through the last 4 years, I've asked this question. If you could live anywhere, where would you live? Would you consider a tiny home made from a scrapped wind turbine? They say it looks great, and they are talking about, and they key these surprisingly gorgeous tiny homes are giving aging wind turbines new purpose. That is the name of the article. And it shows a gal at the front of this thing with the doors open. I'm hoping it's got some windows in it because I'd get a little claustrophobic. But can you imagine? Can you imagine the ultimate recycling of a wind turbine is to take the nacelle, the business end of the wind turbine, and recycle that into a tiny home that somebody could use, need otherwise, or even tell the company, hey, part of your decommissioning is to getting these nacelles to a point where they can be turned into these homes, and somebody figures out some sort of assembly line way of modifying them so that it would get less expensive and maybe even on site so they don't have to be trucked and you don't have transportation expenses. Because that's one thing the article came up with. Moving these big things was expensive and difficult to do. But I think the ingenuity of Americans, somebody in America will come up with a way to do this. But I think it's a great idea because there's so many people that could use a place to live. And we need to recycle this stuff. It's a win-win for everybody. And I'd love to see this concept because it's really nice. And I bet it'd be really comfortable. Imagine an Airbnb, actually better than ocean-going containers for sure. At least I think so. This looks way better, and it's aesthetically more pleasing. And from what they're talking about, definitely upscale. There are no prices with this, so I have no clue what that's going to look like if they ever get this thing to scale, if they ever decide to build these. We've come to the end of our visit. Be sure to join me again next time right here. This has been the Tech Mobility Show.
The Tech Mobility Show is a copywritten production of Tech Mobility Productions, Incorporated. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of Tech Mobility Productions, Incorporated.
For those of you that listen to podcasts, we have just the one for you. Hi, I'm Ken Chester. Tech Mobility Topics is a podcast where I upload topic-specific videos each week. Shorter than the full show, these bite-sized programs are just the thing, particularly if you're interested in a particular topic covered on the weekly radio show. From Apple Podcast to iHeartRadio and many podcast platforms in between, we got you covered. Just enter Tech Mobility Topics in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts. Social media. It's the place to be. We're no exception. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Several times a week, I post to TikTok several of the topics that I cover on my weekly radio show. It's another way to keep up on mobility, technology, news, and information. I've built quite a library of short videos for your viewing pleasure, so be sure to watch, like, and subscribe. That's the Tech Mobility Show on TikTok. Check it out. To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show. Do you listen to podcasts? Seems that most people do. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. If you missed any of our weekly episodes on the radio, our podcast is a great way to listen. You can find the Tech Mobility Podcast just about anywhere you can enjoy podcasts. Be sure to follow us. From Apple Podcasts to iHeartRadio and many platforms in between, we are there. Just enter the Tech Mobility Podcast in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts.